I would like to remind everyone that this show is brought to you by the Dolphin Wars.
That opening never gets old. Thank you to Fet for Hire, who collaborated too with Pudgy Hedgehog on that opening. Hello, group. Welcome to King Dolphin TV. I'm Raymond, author of the Dolphin Wars series of books. I'm pleased to be here for a special night. But before we get started, let's welcome the ones that keep this channel going, you chatters. How is everybody here? We have Legatus Legionii, the one who opened up the hangar this morning. And we have John Randall. Welcome aboard, my friend. Glad you're here. We have Basil, the pumping seagull. We have Snorter Poopus, Q Bear, this weekend. You're surprised, buddy. And we have Pudgy Hedgehog. Thank you for coming, buddy. How was your flight in? Thank you all. And I will, for those latecomers that come in, we will welcome you as you come along. It's amazing. This is a woman pilot roundtable, and we have guys here, and a hedgehog, and a bear. Hello, Lenrod. How are you, sir? What I decided to do is earlier on when we were talking about the channel with my producer, who's also our wrench, and you know her as my other half, Sandra. I wanted to get some pilots' perspectives. I'm a pilot, so I wanted to see what was going on with various pilots, and I wanted to get both men and women pilots. Well, the men didn't want to do it, so I figured let's get the women to step up. And so I was very pleased to get this fantastic panel of women to help us discuss about women in aviation. We have in the panel, and we'll have more people coming in later on. We have Lynn Kaywood. We have Michelle Held. And we have Elizabeth Hoover. And so please, let's all give them a King Dolphin TV welcome. Pudgy, you are such a flirt. And then John says he can't fly and more or less plummet. And welcome. Women's rights was a mistake. Oy vey. We're already starting that. So we shall begin. How this usually works is, as you know, we have a preset group of questions that we'll ask them, and then we will open it up to you guys. I know you guys will have amazing questions, so don't let me down, pals. So we shall start with, and we'll start with Lynn. Please, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, like what do you do? What do you do in the civilian world? How long you've been flying?
Okay, hi, and thank you for letting me join your channel tonight. So I really appreciate that. I have been flying since about 2001, 2002. I started flying. I got my private pilot's certificate in 2004. My instrument rating in 2005. Played around, did some air racing and just a lot of fun racing through the skies. And I got my commercial certificate in August of 2020. And then got my instructor certificate in March of 2021, and my instrument instructor certificate in May of 2021. And I've been instructing full time since then. To pay the bills before then, I was in mortgage banking for over 25 years in real estate. So that paid my bills. And now I'm enjoying flight instructing as no longer a hobby. It's now my job in my retirement years.
Oh, congratulations on retiring, and glad you're enjoying the flight instructing full time.
Thank you.
What made you want to be a CFI?
After all these years of kind of giving back a lot through charity flights and first flights, I did a lot of Young Eagles and other first flights for folks. And it was just some people kept saying, why don't you get your instructor certificate? Because you really like helping and doing this stuff. So I said, I think I'm going to do that. And I was encouraged when I got my commercial certificate. The designated examiner said, hey, you need to keep going. We need more instructors that have life experience. So most instructors start out with 300 hours or so, and I started out instructing with 2,200 hours. So I have at least the life experience, but now I just have to get the instructing experience.
Okay. And now you mentioned Young Eagles. What aviation-related organizations are you involved in?
Oh my gosh. So I'm life member of just about every organization out there, but the Experimental Aircraft Association, the 99s, which is the Women's International Organization of Women Pilots, Women in Aviation is an organization as well. I'm a life member of Aopa. A lot of type of clubs. I have a 150, so I belong to the Cessna Club and the 150 Club, and lots of really fun organizations out there.
Okay. Now let's go to Elizabeth Hoover. If you could tell us about yourself, what you do in the civilian world, how long have you been flying, and what licenses do you have?
I am an aviation analyst for a consulting company based in Fairfax, Virginia. I've been there just about a year. Previously to that, I worked in aviation insurance, working for a company doing general aviation insurance, underwriting it, which was a lot of fun, and absolutely loved it. Kind of followed my career path of getting a degree in aviation management, so kind of business degree specializing in aviation. But I had also started flying back in 2005. That's when I really started my flight training. But I did a lot of flights before that with Civil Air Patrol as a cadet in the program, and really gave me my start seeing different career fields and experiencing different things like flying hot air balloons and gliders, helicopters, stuff like that. So, but I got my private pilot license and then switched gears because flying is expensive, and focused on one path of getting my degree. So I stuck with management to graduate, and I've kind of dabbled, started and stopped, but I'm technically a rusty pilot. But still stay current with everything, especially with my job as an analyst. Seeing the workforce shortage, is near and dear to my heart. So definitely pretty cool. But
okay, yes, it's nice to know you're in CAP. I did a interview with for the 80th anniversary. I interviewed a couple of West Virginia wing members in Civil Air Patrol. If you get a chance, you may want to take a look at that. It's a good organization. And Michelle Bird, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into flying?
Sure. I've been a pilot for about 15 days now.
Oh, congratulations. Everybody, give her a round of applause.
Lynn's my instructor. So I got into aviation from encouragement from a friend. And unlike Lynn and Beth, I'm not a professional. My goal is just to volunteer for charity, specifically medical flights.
Oh.
And I am going to join Civil Air Patrol. I have my first meeting coming up on Monday.
Oh, great.
But so that'll help me build some time, get some exposure to different aircraft. But ultimately, my goal is just really to volunteer for medical stuff.
Oh, okay. Great. Congratulations again.
Yeah, thanks.
You entered a whole new world. Let's see. We'll go on to the Lynn. What surprised you the most when you started to teach?
When I started to teach, I was surprised by a couple of things. One, that I did know a lot of stuff, but number two, what I didn't know. It's, it can be daunting to start out, especially again with, I didn't follow the traditional path of getting my certificates back to back, and also as in my early 20s, where most folks who follow that career path that want to fly for the airlines go ahead and become an instructor, in their early 20s. So it was sometimes very challenging for me to figure out how to take the right path. But I was also very surprised with the amount of support that I've received. There's a lot of great mentors out there, and now having things like, YouTube videos and channels and Facebook groups and, that kind of stuff. That wasn't around when I started to fly. So now that's really surprised me that the networking is so much more available.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. The only thing you can't do on YouTube is actually get your license via YouTube.
Exactly.
You still got to get in the airplane. You still got to have someone teaching you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Beth, Elizabeth, is Elizabeth or Beth fine?
Either one's fine.
Okay. What I asked Lynn about the aviation organizations that you're in or that she was into. Which ones are you into?
Not quite as many as Lynn, but I am AOPA, as well as Women in Aviation. In fact, I was chapter president of the local chapter for a while. Put on quite a few Girls in Aviation Day events, as well as 99s. I'm pretty active with that.
Oh, great. Good. Are there a lot of, is the 99s the only female aviation organization and Women in Aviation? Are those the only two that are geared to women in aviation, or are there others?
As far as I know, those are the only two geared specifically for women. 99s has two requirements. You must be female, and you must be a pilot or a student pilot.
Okay.
Women in Aviation is a little bit more broad. They do have men involved. In fact, some of the early supporters of the organization back when it was founded were men, which is fantastic. And, a lot of great cheerleaders out there, all genders. Some others, a lot of minority groups, National Gay Pilots Association, or Organization of Black Airline Pilots. There's a Latina pilot group. So a lot of different organizations also geared towards ethnicity in addition to just being women.
Okay. And okay. Okay. Welcome to Andy Masterson. Thanks for coming on board. He told us about those the Chinese pilots. Something wrong. We too low. Oh, holy bleep and bing dang ow. I told you my chat is crazy. But they're also very, very intelligent. So let's. We're going to be expecting someone else very soon. So let me go to. Let's see. Michelle, what did you, when you were going through your training, what was the most exciting experience you had in your training, and then dovetail that with what was the most challenging?
Well, certainly that's the easy answer. The most challenging thing was learning to land the plane, which Lynn finally got me through that. So the most exciting, I think, really was the gift week that we did in Frederick, so at a KFTK, and getting to spend a week with other women who fly or are learning to fly, and actually just making friends, because it's kind of tough. And I certainly love hanging out at Lynn's hangar too. So the biggest challenge for me was actually learning to land. But that came at the end of going to that gift week. So making friends is a little bit tough because there's not so many women in it, and but it makes it kind of exciting.
Okay.
Can we talk about gift a little bit, Raymond?
Huh?
Yeah.
Do you mind if we talk about gift a little bit?
Sure, please.
Again, less than 7% of the pilots out there are women. So we do have a little bit of a hurdle and a challenge. And so a friend of mine, Mary Latimer down in Texas, who is a retired air traffic controller and a retired designated pilot examiner as well. She's been flying since she was a teenager. And she started a group called Girls in Flight Training, GIFT. And she's down in Vernon, Texas. And once a year, she puts on this week-long intensive group. And it all started out with just getting the ladies through written test prep and, helping them get their written exams done for whatever rating they're working on, primarily the private pilot group. And she's expanded, and her daughter runs a group now out of, I think it's Michigan or Wisconsin, that she runs one in the summer. And then I started one for Mary in August. So we had 15 ladies show up, various ranges of skill set and where they were on their journey. And at the end of the week, we had a solo. We had a gal who passed her instrument exam and her ground instructor exam. Mm-hmm. We had another gal get her commercial rating. Wow. We had 3 gals get their high performance endorsements, and 2 gals get their spin endorsements, and 1 got a tailwheel rating. And it's just like it was one of these immersive weeks that is just something that we want to continue to try and do as outreach, so we can have more and more folks really get that understanding of what we need to do to get more women involved in aviation.
That is a very worthwhile endeavor. Do you have if you have a website so that people can look at it, put it into the private chat?
Okay. Yep.
And then I'll make sure that Sandra gets it so she can put it out there.
Thank you.
And we have here a lady who just came on, Katie Larson. I did get that right? Hello, can you hear us?
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah. Just got home from work. Sorry.
Okay. Now, if I recall when I was setting this up, you are a student pilot. Am I correct?
Very, very early. I've had maybe 3 lessons, including my discovery flight kind of student pilot.
Okay. Well, welcome aboard. Glad you can make it. I wanted to get a student pilot perspective. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Aside from the flying thing, well, I work for Bravo down at Martinsburg. I'm the front desk lady, or they call us admins now. So all fancy. Yeah, and it's interesting that that it's a women's group, that there aren't any women students down there. I mean, not a one that I can recall. It's all boys. We have a woman instructing, but yeah, every single student is a guy.
Wow.
Yeah. So otherwise, I mean, aside just about me, I'm I don't know. There's not a lot to say. I spent the last 4 years as a farm worker, and then got out for this office job around airplanes, and it was hard to turn. I mean, a lot of office jobs I would have turned down, but around airplanes, okay, I'll do it if you really want, twist my arm. So it's pretty neat. Look out the window and there's a C-17 rolling by. I like that. I really like that. So yeah. Otherwise, I things that I do or need to do. I've been really involved in cat rescuing, and I need a place to live where I can do foster care for kittens, sick kittens. That's kind of a thing I'm working on right now, is trying to find a place. So yeah, it's kind of I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about, I'm not fascinating.
And joining us right now is Melissa Taurus. She is. Can you hear me? Okay.
Hello.
Okay. She is the. She's the part owner of Frederick Flight Center. I'm from what I was told by my producer. Hello, welcome to King Dolphin TV.
Hi, how are you?
Good, glad you can make it. John Rendell says he sees a kitty. We've got hedgehogs and bears and dogs and cats here. So, Melissa, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for Frederick Flight Center.
Hi, everybody. Well, let's see. We took over Frederick Flight Center about 4 years ago. And it was an interesting story how it came about. I had never had any intention of having a flight school. I fly airplanes, helicopters. I was flying for an aerial survey company. And then they needed some help. And so they asked them, my first job was a financial analyst, and I flew for fun. And I was out, I didn't fly for about 15 years. I flew in my 20s. And then when my kids got older, I thought, let me go back into the finance world. And I did, and I couldn't stand it. So I decided to fly again. And it's all been basically it just all evolved how it all happened. So it's been a pretty neat journey. And then, so we took over, we have 3 partners at the flight center, and we all have our own little position. I'm the finance person.
Okay.
But I taught for AP for several years before I got a job with Piedmont. Mm-hmm. And, but I ended up not taking the Piedmont job because at the time they paid so little at the regionals. And I just couldn't leave my family for that. So I ended up buying a super decathlon. I did a little aerial aerobatics and taught a little bit more. Yeah. And then now I fly, like I said, airplanes, helicopters. I'll teach when I have to. Mm-hmm. And just most recently, I had no idea, but I'm also an examiner for the FAA.
Wow.
So, which just happened last July, which is has been really interesting. So, thanks. So it's been really great wonderful journey. I always tell people you never know what can happen. Just keep, things sometimes just happen, and it's really been fun.
It sounds like there's a theme with the civilian jobs that that leads you guys to, that you all seem to have in the finance management. Is it because you have the to be able to afford flying, or is it you work at it enough and then just say, screw it, I'm gonna go and fly?
Well, I try to pay it forward, with everything. And sometimes I know when I was in my 20s, I got married to my husband's in the military. So we moved around a lot. So I lost my finance job because we had to move every 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So I kind of did whatever odd job I could do. I just happened to want to learn how to fly. And I learned to fly from a World War II fighter pilot.
Ooh.
And he was great. I was his only student. And so we would just go out and have fun. Okay. So a lot of times, when I can, if I'm having some financial troubles or whatever, I won't charge for myself, and all my instructors, when they work for me, if they need another rating, I go and teach them, and I don't charge them so that they can, because they don't make that much money when you're just instructing. It's difficult when they're trying to get to the airlines. And so we try and do little things like that. So it's good to get in with a good group, help. Like I said, I like to pay it forward. It's just, and then when I got my airplane CFI, I went to the helicopter school and I traded. I taught a helicopter pilot how to fly airplanes, and he taught me how to fly helicopters.
Nice.
So there was a savings with that. So there's interesting ways, and there's a lot of scholarships out there that people don't use, that go wasted. There's a lot of ways to do it. So I've been fortunate. I've been really lucky.
Yeah.
So
Lynn knows about it with I'm sorry. Lynn knows a lot about the scholarships running the 99s. I know she's been able to pass out a lot of scholarships to people wanting to fly out there. Yeah. So, Lynn, you did broach the low amount of women pilots versus the population as a whole.
Right.
What is your perspective as to why you think that's so low?
A couple of reasons that kind of historically been kind of tossed around is number one, there's no role models. There weren't any role models. So there could have been role models, and early on when Amelia Earhart and a couple of the other ladies that were barnstormers or trying to set records in the 30s, late 20s and early 30s, they had an opportunity to continue to push for more women to get into the industry. And that's how the 99s were actually formed, because they were kind of cut out of a little bit of that. Then World War II came, and the WASPs were able to ferry airplanes. And there were less than 1,000 of those ladies. And then at the end of the war, they were just told, you know what, we don't need you anymore. We're done. So there were no role models. The first woman to fly for an airline, I think it was Helen Ritchie, actually committed suicide because she was fired from her job very shortly after she got the job, and kind of lived a life of regret after that. So there really hasn't been much support there at all for us. And then to be brutally honest, the traditional female roles of raising the babies, another empty kitchen there. The pilot lifestyle is very difficult when you're flying for an airline and you're on call all the time. And that's but again, now that there is a pilot shortage, and we've got that big bulk of people that are pilots that are retiring. There's a lot of opportunity, and we're seeing the big support. Another group we didn't mention, there is kind of a secret group, Facebook group called FAST, Female Aviators Sticking Together. And I joined early on. I was one of the first group of people that were invited to join this group. And within 6 months, we grew. I think in the first 30 days, we had 600 women in the group. In the first 6 months, we had about 5,000 or 6,000. Now it's been a couple of years, and there's, I think, close to 18,000 women in this group. Wow. And we're starting to hear the stories, the perseverance, how to get through it. Again, a lot of the pilots that fly for the airlines went through the military route. The military didn't allow women to fly again until the 70s, after the WASP experiment was killed in 1944. So it was the late 70s or mid 70s when women were admitted into the military to fly. And it wasn't until the mid 80s when women are allowed to fly in combat. So it had legally. It's and I'll post another one. There's a great book that a friend of mine, a fellow, one of my race partners and fellow 99 wrote, Bev Weintraub, about the first 6 women that flew in the Navy when the program restarted in the 70s. So that's a long answer, but really, the bottom line is lack of role models and really the understanding of non-traditional kind of lifestyle for non-traditional work roles.
Yeah.
You're right. It's so true, Lynn. I mean, I know when I was a kid, I always wanted to fly, and there was nothing out. I thought it was only military. I thought only military could fly, and I had glasses since I was in 4th grade, and at the time, you couldn't unless you had 20/20. So I was like, oh well, which is why I went into economics. And my whole family is all physicians, so they think I'm crazy. So they were not really all that supportive. And you never knew it. I happened to run into a lady, and my husband was in the military, who she flew. I said, how did you do it? Were you in the military? She's like, no, you just go to your local airport and learn how to fly. I'm like, what? It was crazy, And I just think people just don't know.
Yep. They don't. That's my exact story too. I have only one family member, a brother-in-law, who flew in the Air Force. He then flew for UPS. He never talked about his military career, and I was, and I always wanted to do it. But same thing, I, thick glasses and all kinds of stuff, and 5'1". So I'm like, I'll never, the military will never take me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then I was dating a guy when I was 35 after my divorce, and he was in the Air Force, and I said, I missed my calling. I really want to do this. And he goes, what are you talking about? I learned down the street at the local airport. So that's how I got started. So
I had no idea. Yeah.
I didn't even. Yeah.
I mean, my dad threw me in the front seat of a Young Eagles flight when I was, 7 or 8 years old. Mm-hmm. I really didn't want to go, and it was a flight that changed my life. Mm-hmm. Partly because my sister was screaming out of terror in the back seat as we did a steep turn, but it was life changing. And after that, I was like, I want to be a pilot. And the first words out of my mom's mouth, females aren't pilots. And my dad goes,
exactly.
Yeah,
my mother still won't get an airplane.
The funny part is my mom was my first passenger, and she absolutely loved it. Yeah. Of course, she had a little joke to for me at the end with a little sign that says, I survived best flying. So, yeah, it was fun. Of course, we were in a 152. So that in itself is always a treasure. But my dad was my biggest supporter and said, yeah, girls can fly. And he only knew about going the military route, which is why I joined Civil Air Patrol. Because I thought that's the only way I could fly. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I started looking at colleges and going, oh, yeah, there are other alternatives out there. Mm-hmm. And I ended up not going military. I ended up not going ROTC. I stayed straight civilian.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was able to get some scholarships,
Mm-hmm.
and there wasn't as many then as what there are now, which is wonderful. I believe Women in Aviation gives out over $1 million every year for those scholarships. To date, they're over $10 million. And, that's increasing every year. Some of them are big amounts, such as, full type ratings from Boeing and Airbus, but you have a lot of little scholarships too.
Mm-hmm.
And 99th has the Amelia Earhart Scholarship Program. A lot of local chapters have scholarships. So there's a lot of ways to now fund those programs or fund that flight training that weren't there 10, 15 years ago. So I think a lot of that is changing, but as a whole, we can do better.
Yeah.
And like Melissa does, pay it forward. Someone helped us, we can help the next generation. And it just expounds on the number of people we can reach down to and pull them up to our level. Right. Because we're just building a ladder. And that'll definitely help the next generation.
Yes, definitely. And hopefully alleviate the shortage that we're up against. Hello, Brenda. I'd like to please welcome Brenda Tibbs. She is the runner of Bravo flight training. And would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm just joining, so I'm not really sure what everybody's been saying, but I own Bravo Flight Training, and yep.
What made you decide to? Okay, so you're a CFI. What made you decide to do your build a flight school? Because I imagine it's quite. Melissa probably can relate that it's quite difficult and expensive to get a flight school.
Yeah. I just enjoy flight instructing. And when I thought about making different life choices and what I would want to do, I never questioned that I wanted to be a flight instructor. And looking around at the funny thing is I never wanted to be a flight instructor either. I had ideas about what I wanted to do when I got my commercial rating. And then I found out that there really wasn't anything that was open to me as a commercial pilot, because insurance requirements and time requirements. And during that time period, things were very competitive. So I had to do CFI like a lot of people do. And or I chose to do CFI like a lot of people do. And then even though I never really wanted to do it in the first place, I found out that I enjoyed it. So, I did work at Aopa for a little while, and that's a great company. But what I learned while I was there was that I missed flight instructing. So I went back to that, and I really wanted to have my own opportunity to do things the way that I wanted to do things here at Bravo. So I've been very happy since I opened this company. It's been almost 6 years now.
Wow. And how many locations do you have?
We do have the 3, Martinsburg, Frederick, and Gaithersburg. And just this past year, we opened a maintenance facility. And so everything's been very positive. We've been growing a little bit every year. And I think having fun and, have my list of goals, checking off boxes.
So StreamYard seems to be kicking people off. I apologize for that. This is not necessarily it's a good platform, but sorry, Melissa, it keeps kicking you off. I guess she's frozen.
There she is. She's rejoining. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let me. So it looks like you are all trying to work to bring the low level of women pilots out there more in line with the population as a whole. My question is, do you find demographics to be the problem with getting women into the aviation? Like you mentioned that Martinsburg has like one female flight trainee to a bunch of male instructors.
We definitely have a lot more men over at the Martinsburg location. Honestly, when I opened Bravo in Frederick, it was really just me and a bunch of guys, either other flight instructors or all of my students were men really to start with. And it took a little bit of time. And now I think we have a lot of women who fly here, as well as a lot of women flight instructors working here. Even our, Catherine and Amber, who are admins, they are pilots. I feel like we've got a lot of women here in Frederick now. Martinsburg, again, I feel like it started with me and a bunch of guys. And, now we've got Kate working there, and she's a student pilot. And we have Jody, who is a flight instructor there. We don't have a lot of women students yet, but, once you get a couple of ladies in there, things start to snowball. So that's why we started the 99s chapter, the Mountaineers, over in Martinsburg, trying to encourage more women. And what I'm also finding in Martinsburg is that there are a lot of ladies there, but they're kind of, I want to say hiding. They're not really hiding, but they're not all together. It's not very cohesive. So by starting the 99s chapter there, I felt like we were bringing a little bit more cohesiveness to the ladies that are there and trying to bring about more of that camaraderie, which I think just increases, it makes more women want to join.
Yeah, that sounds good. Michelle, okay, you have entered the brand new world of being a certificated pilot. What do you want to do? Well, I know you said want to do medical flying, so
Yes.
You don't foresee doing anything like going into the airlines or anything like that?
No, definitely not. I just plan on volunteering, sort of like Lynn does, PALS flights or Angel Flight East. I will go on to get my instrument rating and commercial rating.
Mm-hmm.
And I also said I would do Civil Air Patrol, so I'm starting that next week.
Okay, great.
But no, that's about it. So my sister died of brain cancer in 2018, and on her initial diagnosis day, she took a medical flight. It wasn't a volunteer one,
Mm-hmm.
but we learned, through all the different hospitals and stuff that we visited, but that there are organizations, and just a lot of patients just don't know about them.
Okay. All right. I think we should. If I come up with some, I've got some other questions, but I'm seeing some really good questions from the chat. So I'd like to hear what the chat would like to ask. If you want to just ask a general question, please ask the question. And if you have a particular person you want to talk to, just put their name out there and they'll be happy to do the answers. John Rendell says he's sorry to hear about your sister.
Oh, thank you.
She lost hers to breast cancer.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. And let's see, we'll just start from the bottom. And then again, if you've got questions, put them in chat. One, Legatus Legionine asks, when one says pilot, is there a difference when it refers to a plane or a copter pilot? Anybody want to take that one? Nope, you're getting a lot of head shakes. They're really
a pilot's a pilot.
Yeah, pilot's a pilot. There's just
you have different training and you will earn different certificates. Mm-hmm. So you do have different skill sets, but your certificate says pilot on it.
Yeah.
Even drone.
Yeah. However, However, a single engine land can't do a helicopter. They need a rotary license.
Right.
Okay.
Like I say, you can do anything in aviation once.
Yep.
But legally, you need to have certificates.
Okay, let's see. I'm looking for other questions.
The one question you asked me earlier about what was a difficult part of training.
Sure.
I have a better answer for that.
Go ahead.
Like many industries, flying is a jargon-rich environment. And I think that some of those things still get me. And I think some of the jargon that we use is unnecessary. So, for example, one of the early ones was saying it's a 6-place plane, meaning it has 6 seats. Like, why can't we just say it has 6 seats? Or a more recent one is rudder authority. Rudder deflection seems like a good term for me. It's stuff like that that gets you.
Okay. Yeah, it took me a bit when I went through my training myself. Let's see. Come on, people. I know you guys are just dying to ask questions.
Well, tell us about your training then.
Oh, mine? Sure.
Yeah.
I started I started taking flight lessons in 2003. Actually, way before then in the military. I went to an aero club on the base I was at. Mm-hmm. And then between money running out and the aero club decided to divest their assets and send them to another base. It took some time for me to get back into the seat. Life happens. So 2003, I decided to go into a 141 school. And I'll explain that in a minute, guys. And went zero. I took the quote unquote 0 to CFI in one big program. It didn't quite work out how I wanted. So, but I got my private, my instrument rating, my commercial, but I have yet to get my CFI. And yes, I'm going to tell the story. When Sandra and I started dating, I took her on our first anniversary. I took her on a flight, and I guess I started the bug. I call it created the monster. So she started decided she wanted to get her training going. She's got her CFI, and she's doing a lot of stuff with CAP, and I'm just absolutely proud of her. So
now you just rattled off a bunch of terminology that you can now explain. Like,
okay, she's got her CFI, her double I, her MEI. So I will explain. CFI is certificated flight instructor. The double I is the instrument rating. The MEI means multi-engine. And I'm drawing the line at her going after a rotary aircraft. No. She doesn't need to be flying rotors. She doesn't need to be flying rotors.
Come on.
Wait, so you're saying to a bunch of women pilots that as a husband, you're going to forbid her from pursuing something you are
she says
in a dangerous area.
Shame on you, Raymond.
Fighting words, and you're going to lose that battle.
Well, actually, I've heard that. Well, we're not going to what I've heard about rotary aircraft from another rotary aircraft. Let's continue on with the questions.
Oh, by the way, this is Maverick. I think.
Hi, Maverick.
Maverick comes to all the meetings.
Hello.
He trained for his CFI with me too. So.
John Randall says another kitty. Yeah, we got kitties and Snoopy and a hedgehog. We got a polar bear in here. We got a big zoo.
Brenda runs a zoo too. She's got every animal
I
there
do.
you want too.
Yeah. John Rendell says, let's see. Can you speak out on your feelings on wing walkers, considering the one that was killed a few years back at an air show?
You're probably talking about Amanda Franklin, probably. I didn't know her directly. I knew of her and had met her, but everything's dangerous. You can walk down the street and get hit by a bus. So I don't think it has anything to do with being a woman that accident happened. But traditionally, women are wing walkers because they're thinner and a little more agile. But and I guess the crowd likes to see the ladies on the wings. But there's a school in California. You can go out and anybody can go out and learn to wing walk if they want to do it. You can see it locally here. I think we're all from the Washington D.C. area. Michelle's up in the Philly area, or well, you're further north than that, I think.
North of Philly, yeah.
Yeah, north of Philly. But at Flying Circus, you can see wing walking, and so it's it's like I said, it's not any more dangerous than anything else we do in aviation.
Legatus asks, is the time to get either copter or plane licenses similar in length, costs, etc.? Go ahead.
The time is similar. I mean, it's the same requirements, but it's a lot more expensive, unfortunately, for the helicopter. A lot of times, I recommend people to get their license in the airplane first, because you can learn about airspace, learn about all that stuff without paying the helicopter prices. And then you get your license, and then you can just go into the helicopter, and you're just learning another craft as opposed to learning everything, like learning all the terminology, or learning how to talk to the tower, learning all that kind of stuff. So if you do the airplane first, you kind of already know that, and then you go into the helicopters. But the Robinsons also have a unique thing that you have to have 20 hours of instruction before you can even solo. So there is that as well. But it's only an add-on rating as opposed to doing the whole thing in just the helicopter. Some people just do that because they just like it better, but I think you can learn so much more from the airplane first, just the aerodynamics, how things works. There's a few differences, but I compare them to skiing. If you ski and snowboard, the airplane's like a skiing and the helicopter's like snowboard. If you can put a person on skis and they'll make it down the mountain. It won't be pretty, but they'll make it down the mountain, right? Just kind of like an airplane. You can put somebody fairly new in an airplane and they can fly it, they can do it. But you go on a snowboard and you're pretty much on your butt the whole time. And that's like a helicopter. You're kind of hovering, all that. But once you get it, you get it. So, but the airplane takes a lot more skill to really tighten it up, because you always have to land on a runway, right? So it doesn't matter where the wind is coming, you have to put it on the runway. Whereas a helicopter, you can always turn it into the wind. So you never really have a crosswind landing with a helicopter because you just have to turn and put it down. So that's the differences. But I think so it takes about the same amount of time. It's just more expensive in a helicopter.
Okay. Yeah, and Sandra says, and I can relate to this. I did take a helicopter flight, and hovering is hard.
You have to get it. It's kind of like riding a bike. When you ride a bike and you go to turn, you don't think about turning and going, right? You kind of just have to feel it, and that's what the helicopter. The minute you start making too many corrections, it just goes all over like this. So it's almost like you're not even. It can be frustrating because the instructor just goes, the student be like, oh my God, fix it, and they just go, and it's just there. And you're like, how do you do that? So it's it's tricky, but so fun.
Okay. All right. Katie, when do you think you're going to get your private pilot's license?
It's hard to say. I would like to say I'm going to win the lottery anytime now. I think drawings are on Wednesdays and Fridays or something. Sometimes I click in for it. I don't know. It hasn't worked for me yet. Yeah, I just put in for the AOPA scholarship. And I don't know when they make announcements on that. But, fingers crossed, toes crossed. And I had put in a lot of effort on a scholarship for a nearby 99s group that went very badly. They had very negative responses, basically, about all the entrants. So I don't know what to expect from scholarships, but I may need to rely on them at a very great deal for this.
Yeah.
And, it may be that I should do sport pilot first, just because it's going to be hard to get the money, and I should do the one that's less per hour and takes fewer hours total. I want private pilot and I want IFR. That's what I really want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'll throw the choppers on at the end.
The one thing they say about the way to make a lot of money in aviation is to spend a lot of money. I used to work as a flight attendant in the airlines, so I heard all the jokes about spending a lot of money in aviation.
People spend a lot of money on boats too, but they don't necessarily make that back. I mean, it would be at a hobby level for me, so I could do a little bit of travel, just to here and there, something to have a little variety in my life. And but I'm not planning on doing the career route. Too old for that. And so I would not be spending the money to make the money back.
Okay. Now that brings a next question that I had is, what opportunities are those that are out there for those that don't want to fly for the military, or can't fly for the military, or don't want to fly for the airline, or can't fly for the airline? What opportunities are out there to, and let's as a given, let's mention, let's say flight instructor is already a given since most of you are here, but outside of flight instructing, what opportunities are out there for a job?
There's actually a lot of opportunities. Just starting with your airport, you have people that work at FBOs, which are fixed-based operators. They're like the airport terminal for smaller airfields. You have aircraft mechanics. If you're mechanically inclined, still want to be around aviation. And you also have airport workers themselves. You need people to maintain the airport. You have people who work in air traffic control towers that direct airplanes. You have people that work for the government with the FAA. So there's a lot of different careers out there. You've got, behind the scenes in the airlines, there are tons of people that don't have flying jobs, but deal directly with aviation. Like I said at the beginning, I'm an aviation analyst. I look at data, pull information, put together presentations, help with meeting support for clients. Some of our clients are government, some are industry. But we deal with a lot of different companies that don't necessarily involve flying. So there's a lot of opportunities to be around pilots, be around airplanes, but not fly on a daily basis.
Okay.
And in aviation too. I mean, you don't have to fly for the airlines. And besides instructing, I mean, you can fly what they call Part 91. You could fly for a private, somebody who owns an airplane and wants to hire you to fly them places. You could fly like down, there's not a lot around here, but like down in Texas and out west, there's a pipeline patrol where you can You can fly and get paid to just inspect, oil pipelines, or you can do wildlife patrol, fly for the Park Service. You could do aerial firefighting. You could do EMS. You could do emergency flying. We have on the field at Frederick, we have Trooper 3, which is one of the 12 helicopters based in the state of Maryland that do emergency services. So, there's really a lot more out there that people don't know, that these little niche kind of, there's also something called Part 135, which is charter on demand kind of flying. With COVID, that's become a very big growing industry again, where people don't want to get on an airliner, and they want to rent their own seat on a small plane to take them someplace. So
you're right, Lynn. There's tons of. I mean, I guess I fly for a private guy. I fly his jet whenever he wants to go somewhere, and we have constant 135 saying, "Do you have any pilots for us? Do you have any pilots for us?" I did aerial survey, which some the pipeline kind of thing, but we took pictures. We do photo flights for people who need real estate. They're using more drones now, but and there's agriculture. We've got a guy who likes to fly agriculture and does spraying for we have tours. People fly tours. I just met a guy who flies tours out at Mount Rushmore. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think of that. That's great. There's all, but it does involve a lot of moving, around, and but there's a ton of, and right now pilots are in the biggest demand ever.
Right
now.
Legatus Legion I asks for our copter expert here, with a copter license, and that's actually a rotary license. Does that include being able to fly into a city building rooftop landings, or is that a monster issue of its own?
Oh no, you can do that. I mean, you have to have permission. You just can't go and land on somebody's roof, but you have to have permission. But you can land anywhere. I mean, you can land on somebody's property as long as you have permission. So it's really flexible, But yeah, the license allows you to do that, but you can't do it. Yes, crop dusting is still a thing as well. We do a lot of. There's still a lot of spraying. The agricultural is probably, I would think, one of the most dangerous jobs, because they have to fly low, and we have to avoid a lot of, because they have to come down to spray. But we even use helicopters. Sometimes they hire us to dry fields, like the vineyards. They don't want it to be cold, so you come and you just swirl around the vineyards so that the dew doesn't set, so they don't ruin their crops. Or we had like a big soccer tournament. They wanted us to dry the fields, so we just take helicopters and just go back and forth and dry the fields.
Oh, wow.
Stuff that you would never think about,
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, I just lost a question here. Just had one. Disappeared. Lynn actually put some books out to recommend. So for those of you who like reading, they're might be a little too big to put in the chat, but books are Wings of Gold by Beverly Weintraub. This tells about the first 6 naval aviators. Nerves of Steel by Tammy Schultz. She's a Southwest pilot and former Navy pilot that saved the flight that had an engine fail and blow a hole into the side of the airliner. And Jet Boss by Laura Savino, retired United Airlines captain who tells her story of being one of the first female pilots at United. And the Powder Puff Derby by Janora Jessen, story of the first women's air derby in 1929. So if you want to read more about women in aviation, please look those books up.
Yep. And also Janora, by the way, was one of the Mercury 13. So she was, the Mercury 13 were the women that went through Dr. Lovelace's clinic in the 1960s to be astronauts, women astronauts, and that program was killed as well. So,
of course, it was.
But she and Wally Funk trained together, and I'll find Wally. Wally just put a book out too. I'll give you the title of that one in a minute. I can't remember her title.
And Sandra's still putting out links to Frederick Flight Center and Bravo. So let's see. Looking for other questions since my chat has decided to go shy.
Raymond, I was
yes,
thinking about I'm a step late. Aviation related jobs. If I got to start all over again, I think that the writers at AOPA, some of their media people have the coolest jobs where they get to fly all kinds of airplanes. And that's not like their direct job. They're writers or they're doing all of their media support. But boy, don't they get to fly some fun stuff all over the country.
Yeah, I remember those. when I worked there. Yeah.
Yeah, but like Dave Hirschman, Paul Harrop, those guys, Tom Haynes, all the cool stuff they get to do. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember. Yes, definitely. They AOPA is Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, probably the biggest United States general aviation support organization.
But probably writers for any of those magazines would get invitations to do all kinds of really cool stuff. So not being a professional pilot, but being a writer and then having those opportunities, I think is really awesome.
Right. Okay, Sandra says, so this one I enjoy also talking about too. Talk about the night witches.
Okay, yeah. The Night Witches, a very interesting group. They are actually, well, besides the Spitfire girls in England in World War II, the Night Witches were actual military personnel. They were women that the Russian military hired in World War II to do bombing runs at night in very small airplanes, and these women would turn off their motors and glide in to drop their bombs, and then pop back out. And very, very fascinating. These ladies, I think there's like one or two of them left, but they were kind of like the Wasp, a very small group. High death rate because they were shot at a lot. And the reason why they got the name was that the troops would hear this whistling because they could hear the dive bomb come in. You know, the engine was off, but they could hear the sound from the airplane diving down at them, and they heard this real eerie whistling, and that's how they got the name, that they were these witches that just showed up at night and then just out of nowhere. And they played a very critical part for the Russian military in World War II.
Oh yeah, I've been. I actually didn't hear anything about them until I saw the play. There was a play in Manassas about night witches, and that got me really fascinated about it. And unfortunately, there is very little written about them. I don't know. I saw one book on women pilots on a whole that flew for the Soviet Union. There's if you go on YouTube to Star Media, there was a TV series called Night Swallows that tells about them. Of course, you got to read the Russian subtitles, but it's a fascinating story. Just not enough. They didn't get enough play in either books or in stories. But yeah. Really fascinating. Anti-derivative Jill. Hello, Jill. How are you? Welcome. Nichelle Nichols. Nichelle Nichols did a lot for encouraging women to become astronauts at NASA.
Sure did. She sure did.
Let's see. Come on, guys. I know you can give a lot of questions. Okay. The book that Lynn was talking about was Higher, Fast. Let me see if I can put these out here. Higher, Faster, Longer by Wally Funk. Her quest to become an astronaut, and she actually ended up in Blue Origin. Was she one of the first ones before?
She went on. She went on. She went on the second. Well, she went on the first flight with
Jeff Bezos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she was the first woman, and it's I think the only woman that's gone up on either of those aircraft now.
Actually, there was one. There was one on the flight with Shatner.
Shatner.
And Shatner also took the title of oldest person going up away from
That's
Wally.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
she held it for a hot second of being the oldest person going to space.
Yeah.
It was still an accomplishment.
Yeah. Did Shatner beat her?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he's a year or two older than her.
Okay. Yeah, I think StreamYards will let me put these books in. So I'm putting these books into the links for those of you that are interested in reading about women pilots.
Yeah. We also had a great record, world's record set just a couple of weeks ago. A young gal from Belgium, Zara Rutherford, who's also a 99. She's 19 years old, just flew around the world. And in an experimental aircraft. Okay. So she is now the youngest person to have done it, youngest female to have done it. And her brother is launching in about 2 weeks, and he's going to try and break another record. He's only 16, so he's going to beat her. But amazing. She doesn't have too much out from the way of her story yet, but she does have it was Fly Zolo, and I'll put that in the comments too. Flyzolo.com has all of her information on it.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. So now, right now we've got the Fryzolo.com. Okay, there we go. I'll put that out there. Okay. Legatus asks, is there an organization pilots are part of and not like these union commercial pilots? Are they regional or national? Well, the one we have talked about is Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association that is primarily based in the United States, and they're all over the U.S., but then they have regions all over the U.S., and then they have an international association of pilots. I know.
Of course, I think all of us ladies are members of the 99.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Or Women in Aviation.
Mm-hmm. As an overall organization, probably Aopa is the largest general aviation organization in the world. Right. There's Experimental Aircraft Association as well.
Yeah, tell us about that one.
So for EAA,
yeah,
I think they started around the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all around, how to build your own aircraft. And you used to be able to get like Popular Science magazine, and you get planned blueprints in there on building your own aircraft. So, what is his name that started it? Paul Peverenzi and a bunch of guys got together and decided they wanted to form an organization. And then they said, hey, every year, let's get together. So every summer, it was originally in Rockford, Illinois, for about I think 20 years maybe, and then it grew, this fun event get together where all these like-minded pilots could get together and show off their aircraft that they just spent several years building. And now it's based in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And every year, the last week of July, about 600,000 pilots and aviation enthusiasts get together for a week of fun, of air shows every day, showing aircraft. Again, people show off their aircraft that they've built or they've restored. And we have our organization 99, everybody, it's a big, kind of aviation conference, and you can buy equipment, you can buy airplanes, you can buy helicopters, you can buy anything that moves at these events. And it's really, really a lot of fun. It's kind of the mecca of aviation. And at any given time, there's 10,000 airplanes on the ground. They do well over 1,000, I don't know what they call it, units or whatever the control tower does. It becomes the world's busiest airport control tower that week alone. So it's if you haven't been there, you got to go there. It's like going to Disney World for pilots.
And speaking of Disney World, during the spring, they run Sun and Fun in Orlando, if I remember right.
Yeah. And it's kind of like the Disneyland and Disney World comparison. You can fit Sun and Fun into the parking lot of Oshkosh, of AirVenture. So it is, Sun and Fun's that's a spring break for pilots, we call it. So go down there. It's smaller, but not any smaller in heart. And again, you get down there when it's warm, kind of the icebreaker. But similar air shows every day with the big shows like with the Blue Angels or Thunderbirds or something on the weekends. And it's just a bunch of enthusiasts getting together, aviation enthusiasts.
There's also local groups that are not on a national level, like Smoketown Pilots, or even on Facebook, there's like DC Pilots where you can go on and discuss. And then there's also flying clubs. So some people, they have different, they usually have a plane. It's kind of a little bit cheaper way to fly as well and learn how to fly, because they have instructors in there, but you kind of buy into like a group that has a bunch of planes or one plane or three planes. They're all different. You'd have to find them. And then you can rent those planes there, usually at a cheaper rate, without owning your own plane. You own like a part of a plane. And they're all over the country as well.
Okay. Snorter Poopus Cubur asks, he was distracted, has anyone mentioned Pancho Barnes?
Oh, Pancho. Yeah, Pancho raced in that first air race in 1929. And I never got to meet her, but I know people who did meet her. And she was quite the character. But I definitely, there's a documentary out on her that's fascinating. But she was one of the first racers, one of the first 20 women in that first air race.
Legatus asks, did any of you start off flying those model airplanes before deciding to be a pilot? I guess you're meaning like the radio control type airplanes?
My first boyfriend in high school flew them incessantly. I hate them now because of that.
That's how Carlo got started too. But yeah, I knew I was never really interested. Although we did do, like with my brothers, I think we did some model rocketry kind of stuff.
Yeah, I did that. I did that with the kids. That's fun.
Yeah. They would do cool things, launching, G.I. Joe and stuff like that.
I had that little toy. It's an older toy. It's like a plastic cheesy helicopter. It's like on a stick, and you just have like two controls, and it can only go in a circle, and you could pick stuff up with it. That was fun.
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah. Okay. All right. John Rendo asks, the favorite model, or your favorite model, plane, or helo of each of yours. Let's start with I know Lynn's. Well, no, you got two. Maybe no, you got three, don't you? What do you? I take it they're all three your favorite. If you can tell us,
All three, my favorite
all
airplane.
three. Yeah, what is your favorite?
Well, my 182 is I've had the longest and I love, and spent a lot of time. I probably have over 2,000 hours in it now. But I helped Carlo very in a small way. A lot of moral support. My garage helped build his two aircraft, so I really am partial to his new baby, the Hatz Classic that he built. It's a little antique looking biplane, but
Okay.
yeah, if it flies, I love it. I'll tell you, the very first airplane that I knew what it was and I knew the name of it was I went to an air show when I was 13 years old, and I was visiting my sister in Germany at Ramstein Air Force Base. And this is before they changed the crowd control requirement. We had to stand back. We were literally standing on the edge of the taxiway when a Harrier jet landed. It couldn't have been, to me, it was 50 feet away. I don't know where it was, but you could feel the heat. You could feel the blast. It actually almost knocked us over. And I still have an affinity for the Harriers.
Yeah. Okay. Then you were there probably after the big accident.
Yes. I was there before.
You were there before
the crowd control lines. This was in 76 when I was there.
I was stationed in Germany. I wasn't at the air show, but I was still in Germany when it happened. So
yeah, it was like a year or two later. Yeah.
Okay, Michelle, how about you? Your favorite? Probably the one you just got your license in.
No, Lynn mentioned it. Even though I was only in it for a short time, Carlos, her husband's Hatz is really cool. It's the equivalent of like one time a friend of mine took me in his antique car to a car show, and it was like being queen for a day. Like people were waving at you when you came to an intersection. The police were like, "Yeah, go through. Hey, do you want to park on my lawn?" And that's the Hatz was just a nice summer ride, and it was just kind of fun. So open cockpit, that was cool.
Okay.
So yeah, now I finished up in Cessna 172, but I would go back to a Piper Archer. That was my first trainer. I would go back there, but the Hatz very cool.
Is that the air cam, Lynn?
No, air cam. He's actually getting ready to sell his share in that. He owned half of an air cam, which is a twin engine flying canoe. It was built as a photo platform for National Geographic, actually for safari work. And so you can get very low and very slow in this airplane. It's a lot of fun. But the Hatz is almost as good. The viewing is not as great out of the Hatz, but it's still just as fun and just as slow and just as low.
Liz, Beth, what was yours?
Well, I helped build Carlos' Hatz, so I have a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Emphasis on the blood. Rib stitching is painful, by the way. But I flew it for a hot second. So I really can't say it's my favorite to fly. I would say my favorite airplane is probably B-17. So I actually got to fly in one of those with organization Collings Foundation, which made me think of one organization we didn't mention, of the Commemorative Air Force.
Yes, definitely.
So if anybody's interested in vintage airplanes, they always need volunteers to help the old girls fly. Girls being the planes, not people. But it was a lot of fun getting to fly in it. It was just nothing like you could ever imagine on the ground, and such a piece of history. So that was probably my favorite plane to be in.
Okay. Before I move on, I'd like to welcome some more newcomers. Matt G, hello. Bionic Belly Button, hello. Welcome aboard. It's been a while. Katie, yours. What is your favorite?
Well, I haven't flown enough to have a favorite to be in, but Lynn is bringing back some memories of Oshkosh for me. Back in the 80s, I lived in Minnesota. I would drive over to Wisconsin in my little VW camper and park facing the field. And this is when they had no rules. Again, you're right up against the tarmac and you just park and you pop your camper top and you watch stuff come in all day. I do remember being near the Harrier jump jet somewhere. It might've been Oshkosh, and feeling the wind and the heat. And it's creepy because it's like some kind of a robot Tron thing. It just turns around and looks at you, and it seems evil, but it's ours. Well, we didn't develop it, did we? Somebody else did. But it was amazing things. And also the stealth bomber. I've been nose to nose with a stealth bomber at night with just the lights on it and that little sign that says the soldiers are authorized to kill you if you touch the airplane. And you can smell the fuel because they have to build it. Goes so high that you have to build it loose, and the fuel leaks out and you smell the fuel of it. Things like that. I guess the fast aircraft, the Gee Whiz aircraft get me. I mean, I would settle for an F-16.
Yep. Brenda, you.
Well, I love what I fly every day, which would be the Cessna 172. But really, anything that's open. So I'm going to go back to Carlo's. What is it? The air cam.
Show us a photo.
The air cam.
But anything that is really open, I had the opportunity to get a seaplane rating and flying just the Cubs with the windows open, things like that. I love.
And Melissa, you.
All right, my favorite is I have a Super Decathlon, which is my favorite. I have to see Carlo's plane though, because I don't know that plane, so I have to come and see it. So the Super D is my favorite because it can go upside down, it can do loops, it can do all that kind of stuff. So that's fun. It's a lot of fun. I also love the P-51 Mustang. That's one of my favorites. My first instructor, that's what he flew in World War II. So one day, if I can find one to get in and I can save all my money so I can go in it, because I know it's not cheap, I'd love to fly one of those. And my favorite helicopter is the Jet Ranger. Yeah, so it's your classic helicopter. I mean, when you think of a helicopter, that's what I think of, a Jet Ranger. So it's one of my favorites.
Snort says, I saw the calf at an air show a long time ago before they changed their name, and he helped with crowd control when he was a CAP cadet.
Yep.
My favorite military style, it's got to be it's a toss-up between the F4 and the B-52, both of which I've been lucky enough to get rides in. My favorite civilian one or GA one is, it's hard to beat the air cam because I took one ride in that, and it's hard to beat that one. But if I had to pick an airplane, it's probably the 182. I just got to get get back into get current and get to flying that thing.
A mom van of the sky. It fits its ship.
Oh, I love yours. Yours flew nice.
Yeah. Did Brenda tell us what her favorite is?
Yes, she did.
She did?
I'm going to...
Lynn, I said air cam.
That's true. That's right.
It's going to...
I was distracted.
Talk about yourself. Sandra sent me a picture of it. I just got to get it. And
I was trying to download one and I couldn't get it.
StreamYards gives me a... let's see. Okay.
I think I got a picture of mine somewhere. Oh, here it is. Let me get it.
No, this is a better one.
There's mine. Kind of hard to see because of the... Let me turn the light off. Is that better? No.
Here, I got one up. I'm going to share my screen.
182.
Did I? Okay, where is StreamYard? Okay, share
I had a picture
screen.
of your cam. I don't know what I did with it.
Okay, there it is. Okay, window. There's the air cam.
There it is. And if you put floats, I think that bottom one, the red one, it's on floats on the bottom.
Okay. Are you getting the infinity or do you have the actual good picture?
I think we have the good one
Is it the
now.
infinity or you actually see the picture, huh? Okay, good. Well, that's the air cam. And I think everybody in this, a lot of us in this stream have gotten to ride the air cam. It's a nice airplane.
She's made friends with everybody. She's a popular girl.
Yep. Yes, and yes, Pudgy sets up a catapult, whoosh, flying hedgehog. So Snort likes the Snorted Poopus likes the F-14, and so everybody's got a favorite one. Snorted Poopus likes the P-38. And there was somebody. Okay. Robert Hansen. Welcome, Robert. He asks, if cost was no factor, what would be your ultimate adventure airplane to fly or own? Oh, boy.
There's a lot of fun ones out there, but I'll tell you, I don't know why every time in Oshkosh, I fall in love with that Quest Kodiak, that big beast of an aircraft with those big Tundra tires, and I just want to fly all over Africa and Alaska and anywhere where there's tundra and bush to land.
Is that the one that virtually just it just kind of lands like a helicopter? It's just got that good.
It's so overpowered. It is just a beast. Yeah,
I agree with Lynn.
I love that plane. I don't know why. It's just got a lot. It looks like fun.
Legatus asks, when it comes to the air pressure, is there a okay? I don't know if we got any hammies here, but is there a secret solution? You know, or do the altitudes usually don't require you to worry about it? You're always going to have it. I've had to pop.
Yeah, I think the first 1,000 feet are the hardest, actually. But they think you can pop, hold your nose and blow and pop your ears, Valsalva. But I don't know.
Swallowing's the best.
Chew gum.
Mm-hmm.
Yawn, anything like that.
I click my jaw. If you can click your jaw.
Click your jaw.
It usually does it. It usually depends on how fast or how high you're descending, or that's usually the problem when you descend real fast or climb real fast.
Mm-hmm. And never fly with a cold.
Yeah. Head colds are the worst. Don't do it.
There's a P-51 discussion here.
A P-50, that would be my dream to fly one of those too.
Yeah.
That's another beast of an airplane.
Me too. I would love to fly one of those.
It's got either a Rolls Royce or an Allison 12 in it, V12. The thing is it's so powerful that you can't even take it to full throttle on takeoff.
You can't. It'll
only do about 3/4, or you'll flip it. Yeah,
you'll flip it.
Hey guys, come on, chat. I know you can do better than this. Got some great questions that they are asking some really good questions.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So Sandra may be able to tell the story better, but people were talking about Pancho Barnes, and Mary Feiku was a local legend here with the Civil Air Patrol. She, like at 13, she rebuilt her first engine because her dad owned a mechanic shop. But she flew. She was a civilian working with the military, and she actually developed one of the first aircraft simulators for the military in World War II. And she got to fly, I think it was a B-26, brought it in with a military crew into the Air Force Base. Was it Nelliger where Pancho's bar was located? And she didn't drink and never drank. And she went up to the guy she was with, took her into the bar, and she had to put a dress on when she landed. So and she ordered a Coca-Cola, and Pancho tried to throw her out of the bar. She says, you can only drink, if you're going to sit at my bar, I'll only take people who drink liquor. So the captain that was with her ordered a rum and Coke with the Coke on the side. And that's the only way Mary got to drink her Coca-Cola at Pancho's place.
Pudgy Hedgehog asked if any of the nice ladies ever flown loops or loopy loops in planes. How many?
Yep.
Okay. Melissa? Lynn, you did, right?
I have. I had a couple lessons, aerobatic lessons, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. You have to trust yourself and the plane.
Okay. Okay. Now, somebody did have a question early back, and we didn't catch it because we were doing our questions. The new Microsoft simulator. I think it's 2020. Is it any good?
It is.
Oh, it is?
It is. Yeah, it's very good. It's actually, I use it if I'm going to fly somewhere I don't know. You can use it to sort of get an aerial view. It's pretty good. I have spun and crashed myself into the Delaware River.
Okay.
Yeah, work that out on the simulator first.
Yeah, all right. It's really good. Yeah.
But simulators, I think the only thing it really can't teach is how to take off and land kind of thing. But it's great for learning navigation, VORs. Brenda was saying she taught her son how to use the autopilot, and so it's good for that kind of stuff, and that especially for navigation. But I have a 15-year-old kid that is learning how to fly, and first time I took him out, like he already knew where all the equipment kind of was and how to fly the airplane because he had thousands of hours on X-plane.
Yeah,
it's great for instruments too. Instrument training, procedures. It's great for that.
Yeah,
there are some people with some serious home setups with simulator with rudder pedals and throttles and
I've seen
screen.
You can invest as much as an airplane.
Yeah,
a real one.
Sandra tells that Mary Feiku was also a mechanic, and there's the story.
She was a tiny little thing. Yeah, I don't think she was 5 feet tall. Yeah, she came and spoke to us, but the woman was incredible, and she did get some recognition towards the end of her life, but her story is just unbelievable.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a wonderful time. I am so glad that you all were able to make time for through your busy days to come and talk to people about flying and aviation, and in particular women in aviation. So let me thank each of you individually. Thank you, Lynn. And I know we'll be talking as it gets closer to the Air Race Classic. We'll find out more about the 99s and the Air Race Classic.
Team 12, freaking awesome, is racing again.
Oh, freaking awesome's racing again? Cool.
Freaking awesome's racing this year.
Freaking awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to set something up where we can find out more about the the Air Race Classic. Michelle, congratulations. You've entered a brand new world. Keep going and just have fun.
Thanks to Lynn and Bravo. Yeah.
Yes. Brenda, thank you very much, and continue best wishes on your flight school. And please do your part to get more women on flight.
Thank you for having me, Raymond.
You're welcome. Katie, you can do it. Find a way to do it. You can do it. You'll join the pilot club sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I want to be part of the pilot club since I was 16. So yeah, it would be nice. It's a bunch I want to be in. I like the flying gals and maybe the flying guys too. I don't know.
Beth, thank you very much for coming again. It's always a pleasure, and glad to hear what you've got going on, and continued best wishes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And Melissa, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
And Sandra's told me about you, and best wishes on both the flight school and your examining.
Oh, thank you.
So now, before we get going, I would like to say goodbye to the best chat on YouTube. You guys are awesome. You guys are absolutely awesome. Your questions are great. You guys are great people. You are friendly. So let's good night, Legatus Legionii. Good night, John Rendell. Good night, Basil, the Pumpin' Seagull. Good night, Pudgy Hedgehog. Thanks for the opening. Good night, Andy Masterson. Thank you for coming, Robert Hansen. Thanks for coming, Anti-Derivative Jill. Thank you. I'm prejudiced, Matt G. Yes, I know Doomcox is the best, but I tend to think this one's small but mighty. Thank you, Bionic Nilly Button. Thank you, Snorter Poopas Q-Bar. And thank you, Anti-Derivative Jill. And yes, John Rendell, you are right. We are the pod. Thank you, Bionic Belly Button. And thank you. Yeah, that's true, Anti-Derivative Jill. And again, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. And everybody, I am so glad that you had a bot comes at the end. Really? Well, at least he came at the end of the thing. Everybody, it was a wonderful chat. Thanks again, ladies. We'll definitely have you guys back, because if the men are not going to step up, we will have the women come on and take over. So quick show notes so people know what's going on later on in the week. On the 19th, we'll have a Just Cuz, which is just a no themes, we just party. On the 23rd, 32 flavor of Nick Weiser will come and visit. On March 2nd, Anti-Derivative Jill and I will talk about Deep Space Nine's Dominion War. And so everybody, let us remember, let's make some waves, and everybody have a great evening.
Bye.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye.
This segment is brought to you by the DolphinBoys.com.